how's everybody doing? I'm going to start with a little introduction video first. It's actually a bit more than gaming that we were doing now, so let me just start with the video. Well, welcome. I'm so excited to be here today. This is really an honor for me, and thank you all for coming. Let me start by telling you a little bit about what Dreams Quest has been up to over the last 4 years. Clearly not just GameFi. Dreams Quest has been building content that's based on a combination of dreams meets reality to help you see the world differently, or perhaps as it really is. Now, many of you often will ask yourselves, why am I here? I think this is a fundamental thing all of us as humans do. And each of us has a reason for being here, a purpose. In fact, we have a mission. And there are two fundamental truths that I would like you to recognize are true for all of us. We have our spirit, our inside, which yearns to be free. And when I say free, I mean truly be free. But we also have our souls, who have a hunger to experience something greater, to have a deeper connection. And Dreams Quest, as a mission, is to fulfill our mission, is to help all of you reach the same objective. Dreams Quest has been developing relationships and building our community, and all of our content that we've been developing is based on ancient knowledge throughout our world. And we've been leveraging technology such as blockchain, and of course creating stories, worlds, music, written content, visual content as you see. And that purpose is to help awaken our souls and our spirit, to create something that's so embracing that we enjoy and we feel connected to it, and it's an amazing experience. But let me tell you a little bit about how we ended up here, because 4 years ago when we first launched the company, we were a GameFi project. You know, GameFi 2021, everyone's doing GameFi, okay, great. What we realized was that we needed to transform from something like that and to be a leader in an industry that goes from just GameFi to something far greater. So we've redefined ourselves as a diversified transmedia company, and I'll talk you through that. I think you've seen that there's more we're doing than just a game now. And super exciting because of all the things that we're working on. Let me start, by the way, before I tell you how we've transformed to where we're transforming to, just to give you a little preview of what we've been developing in the game. And to develop something that's more than just a game makes you realize the amount of content you have to produce to create backstories, lore, written content, and to have amazing people around you. And we are absolutely blessed with the people who are on our team, who are working in a variety of industries from film, television, music, comics, and gaming. And they're industry veterans, all of them. And we're super blessed by that. But the other thing that I want you guys to understand is that whenever new IPs are developing, their transformation and their opportunity to reach markets also comes at a time when new technologies comes along. Let me give you an example. In 1939, Marvel came along and made comic books. Fantastic. Super fun. But what was limiting them from reaching greater audiences? And what was the transformation that took place for them to suddenly have massive distribution channels beyond anything they had before? It was the advent of the internet. We're now at a precipice where new technology like blockchain is yet a new enabler that allows us to create a far more sharing economy, decentralized environment to allow people to reach in ways they've never been able to reach before. So what if the business of the future is also based on ancient knowledge? Kind of a weird concept, right? Let me explain. There's something you might not know, but it's super cool. But before I get to that, let me tell you one other thing. This whole area of building IP is actually a transmedia goldmine. And what I mean by that is, if you look at the world of Web3, it's actually quite limited in terms of IP, content creation, storytelling. It's very, very, very small. But in the Web3 space, it's actually quite enormous. You know, you look at your Disneys and your Marvels and your Witchers and your Harry Potters and everything else. It's just an enormous, vast world of IP and content creation. The challenge is that in Web3, there haven't been any real winners that have decided to take a step back and build an entire content layer first, and then reach to reach out to communities and to reach out to wider audiences to build verticals. And we think we're probably the first ones really going for it and doing this. So let me tell you a little bit about how we've ended up doing what we're doing and what others have done. If you look at Dune, Star Wars, Avatar, Lord of the Rings, they all have something in common. All of them have referenced a particular person called Carlos Castaneda. Does anybody in this room know who Carlos Castaneda is? Okay, so he's a very famous philosopher, one that I wasn't aware of until I started working with one of our co-founders who's also a Hollywood veteran. Carlos Castaneda is one of the most influential people in Hollywood because of all of his philosophies and teachings and his ideas. But all of his ideas actually came from something more ancient than him. They've come from Toltec history and knowledge from South America. Now it's pretty interesting because you don't realize that Star Wars is based on something that's earthbound Toltec knowledge. You think, oh, it's just Star Wars or it's just Dune, but all of them have some roots of history. So let me tell you what we've decided to do, and I'm going to start by telling you something really mind-bending. And this is because we have a research team that's been researching our own history of our own world. We have worlds on Earth from the past that all disappeared at the same time. Not one, not two, not three. I'm talking multiples, and I'm talking about this occurring in cycles. This occurred 5,000 years ago. It occurred 2,500 years ago. There seem to be these cycles where civilizations just en masse disappear. What if we could tell you that we knew how it happened? There are no coincidences on this planet, and I mean that in ways that are so mind-bending, it's so cool. Are you aware that there's pyramids in Antarctica that look exactly the same as the ones in Egypt, that are the exact same distances between them, with two large ones and then a small one that's off-center? It looks like the Orion Belt if you look at the sky, the same sort of formation. Did you know that there's language contamination between the Mayans and the Vedics? They both use the same words, Kundalini, yoga, chakra, and yet these two societies had no contact with one another. There's no way they could have reached each other. Look at the distance between India and South America. How could they have possibly had these same words? And spiritual words, even more interesting. And then we discovered something even more interesting. The idea of what are called ring stones. Throughout the world, there are ring stones. These stones that are round, some of them have patterns on them, some of them are solid, but they all have something in common. When you tap them, they ring. When you take them through and you actually analyze them, they have like magnetic responses. Like somebody took one through an airport and actually set off the alarms in the airport and he had no idea what he'd done wrong. It was the ring stone. Now, nobody knows why these ring stones have these powers and why they're all around the world, but maybe we do. So our knowledge, our IP is all based on these cycles. And our world has been built around 5 cycles as well, so that when you get into our world and discover the world, there's a discovery era, there's an era of conflict, There's an era of enlightenment. There's a massive event called an inclusion event, which is a big explosive event that occurs. And post-inclusion, you enter a world where you need to find a way back and to bring the world back to an era of discovery again. These are the cycles. Did I miss one slide here? Okay, it's not playing. Okay, so our media strategy, our transmedia strategy, is very much founded on not just making a game in terms of GameFi. It's really focusing on game, film, books, music to start with many more opportunities to come later. Let me just show you a little preview for the game. Effectively the occurrence of the inclusion event and then our hero in the game landing in the world. But it's not just for the game, because we've been working on a movie extremely secretively for the last year, and we're now out pitching to the film studios. It's super exciting. What we've done though, which is really important to understand, is that when you're creating content and mythology and lore, you create an underlying storyline that allows you to then push those different pieces of content to different verticals at the same time. So we developed a mythology first. That took us about 2 years. We then wrote a treatment over the past year. We're now out pitching to studios in LA and Hollywood, which is really exciting. And all of the storylines in the film are related to the stories in the game, but you might have to watch the movie to discover something that you don't know in the game. That'll be an explainer or some sort of like aha moment that you didn't realize. That's the whole idea of building fandom. We've also been working on a children's book. What's super cool is that we've managed to hook up with a fantastic toy company who have worked on toys like South Park and Angry Birds, and he's working with us to develop these really cute stuffies based on our friendly characters. But we've also got a children's book, and we've got distribution with Simon & Schuster. We've got a distribution for 50,000 convenience stores across the US, which is insane, and it's super exciting. But it's our way of being able to reach children and help them also in terms of struggling with going to sleep and having these kind of nice, positive, warm experiences, because that's what children need today in an era where there's conflict, as we see in parts of the world right now. But now you're probably wondering why I'm standing here talking and I haven't talked about blockchain yet. And now I'm going to tell you there's a few things that are really fundamental. We've never forgotten our roots in being a Web3 company when we started. But what we realized is a couple things. Number one, there's this thing called a sharing economy. Yatsu mentioned it briefly as well. The idea of a sharing economy is that IP companies historically don't share their content. They lock it down, they don't share it, they don't allow people to use it, they don't allow people to work on it, and everything is all super secretive. What if we're able to enable people, we first of all focus on the usage of new technology like blockchain technology to reach masses and to decentralize content and make it accessible and reachable, but more importantly, how do we help the content creators monetize what they do? And how do we reach greater audiences? It all comes down to distribution. That is the fundamental problem that we all have. If you look at all of the GameFi projects, they don't have game publishers, they don't have distribution deals. How do they reach audiences? How do they grow communities? This is why I said at the very beginning the importance of bringing Web 2 and Web 3 together and then going back out to outreach. For us, it's about the sharing economy, it's about leveraging the blockchain technology. NFTs is one thing, but there's so many different ways we can use NFTs. It's not just the fact that we've synchronized game assets from game to chain and back so that you can trade your NFTs as game assets. We can use them as game vouchers, we can use them for immersive tech. There's a million directions we can go. And in fact, this is the direction we're going in terms of our transmedia strategy. So where we started by building game, working on film script, we've been working on music, children's book and stuffies, we see a bigger vision in terms of where we can go in terms of creation of AR, VR, immersive experiences, television, comics. Did I miss anything in terms of the potential? This is what I think is so exciting about the world we live in with blockchain, because it's really the enabler that was the Marvel moment. Marvel's moment, or Disney's moment, was really because the internet allowed them to have mass distribution and have many more channels to reach people. So the paradigm shift for us is what's so critical and so important. Yes, making the game is super important because it's a great way to connect with gamers and to create community, but leveraging the influence of Web 2 to impact Web 3, can you imagine the number of Web 3 people we could increase by bringing them through from Web 2? Also, the idea of using ancient knowledge as part of IP, the same way that Carlos Castaneda did it and infused it into Dune and Star Wars, is a phenomenal concept. It's what's called the Lindy effect, the fact that content has been around so long, it's familiar, and you know it, so it becomes easier to digest, easier to use, easier to get others to use. This is the principle that we're following. And powerful IP, if done well, creates a huge amount of transmedia opportunities in terms of all of the different verticals that we can tap into. This is what I think is so exciting. This is what I encourage other projects in the GameFi world to try to do as well. Don't stay limited in your box, just in one thing. Expand and review the mindset of where you are and say, how can we reach greater places? So this is Dream's Quest, to see the world differently, or as it really is. I will close by just showing you a little preview of our player versus player component of our game that's also been in development. I'll close with that. Stop playing. Is there a way to make it play? Okay. You disappear, you turn into a field of energy, so we make it a little bit more light so it's easier for younger audiences too. Thank you very much. It's been a real pleasure to see all of you, and I wish you all a great time at the conference, and thank you, ABC Conclave.
Thank you so much, Steve. Amazing stuff. Fantastic. That looks like a really cool game. I like it a lot.